Well, welcome everybody. My name is Chad Allen, and this is the webinar on how to craft a killer bio. I'm going to have to kind of sign in and out of the chat box, so every now and again I'll look there to see what's going on. Feel free to drop in questions as we go, and I'll try to get to all of those. I'm so glad you're all here. A bio is useful for a variety of reasons, and I think this webinar is going to help you craft a great bio. So welcome, Liza, welcome. Finishing the first draft of your cookbook. All right, 5 years in the making. Well, a bio is certainly going to be helpful for that. I mentioned earlier that for some reason, the screen likes to flash a little bit, and oftentimes that mellows out as I get going. But just so you know, that's everybody is seeing that. Your system isn't abnormal. And even if it does flash all the way through, you'll still have everything you need to write a great bio. So let's get started. First, a little about me. Again, my name is Chad Allen, and I work for a large book publisher in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I have a blog at chadrallen.com. And I blog about writing and publishing and creativity, and I do some posts just on life. For example, I did one recently called To My Son About His Tears. That was really popular. I am married and have 2 children, an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old. And my passion is to help creative people do their best work. In fact, I recently published a blog post on the importance of crafting a why statement. And that is my why statement. I feel deeply called to help creative people do their best work. That's what drives everything I do. So all that is by way of background. But today we are going to cover how to craft a killer bio. Think of this as a workshop webinar. What I mean by that is, hopefully, if you participate all the way to the end of this, you will have a new bio that you can put to work right away. So that is what I mean by workshop webinar. And this is going to be interactive. At some point, I'm going to ask you to start writing your bio, and then I'm going to ask you to share what you've written in the chat box. Obviously, I can't force you to do that, but I think it's going to be really helpful to you to get immediate feedback on what you're writing. A reminder to turn off cell phones, remove other distractions. To get the most out of this, you know, it's important to remove distractions. That's going to put you in the best mindset possible for writing your bio, for taking in the teaching that I'm going to offer you, and for doing your best work. Also, I'm going to give you a chance to win a coaching call with me. What we're going to do at some point is I'm going to prompt you to share your bio on my Facebook page, and this has worked really well in the past. And then I just select someone randomly, and we set up a 30-minute coaching call, and I just listen to where you are and try to give you some insight. It's been really popular, really helpful. So you're going to want to participate because you're going to get a chance to win a free coaching call with me. My coaching is, you know, people pay me $250, $500 an hour for coaching. So it really is valuable, and I hope you'll take advantage of that. Share this webinar with your social networks if you can. Hopefully you have the registration link, and you can tweet that out or share it to your social networks. The more the merrier. The more people who are here, the more we can benefit from each other. All right. So here's the agenda that we'll follow. Very simple. First, I'm going to do a little introduction. Then we're going to actually write our bios, and then we're going to share what we've written. So that's the agenda. That's what that's kind of the path we're walking down right now. So glad you're here. This is going to be super helpful to you. So why is it that I'm interested in a good bio? Well, I said earlier that I work for a large book publisher, and I'm actually the editorial director for one of the divisions. And a large part of my role is acquisitions. My job is to sort through book proposals and make recommendations about what we publish. So this is what it looks like if I was receiving these proposals in physical form, as I sometimes do, but these days I mainly get them by email. I get this stack of book proposals, and I'm supposed to sort through those book proposals and figure out, what is worth publishing and what's not. Well, one of the first things I look at after I look at the cover page, which usually includes the title and the author's name, I am really interested in going to the bio. The reason for that is that book deals are business partnerships. Authors are artists, but they're also business partners. And the bio tells me right away whether or not this person whose proposal I'm reviewing is somebody that I'd like to work with, somebody that I'd like to work with on a book, but also somebody with whom I want to do business with. So that is why a bio is so important in my line of work. And I can tell you it's going to be true for people who are seeking speaking gigs, people who are seeking coaching clients. Your bio either opens doors or it closes doors. So it's going to be super helpful to have a killer bio. So here are some things that a good bio does. A good bio is no more than 250 words. It includes your main vocational role. And don't freak out about that just yet. A lot of people ask the question, what if my main vocational role has nothing to do with the reason I want a bio? Well, we'll cover that here shortly. But nevertheless, a good bio does include your main vocational role. It references your previous accomplishments of note. Tells us what you're passionate about. References your platform, and by platform, I just mean whatever means you have for bringing exposure to your work. That's your platform. Could be a blog, could be your speaking schedule, could be your social media accounts. It's going to make some reference to your platform, to your way, any way that you have of getting exposure to your work. Mentions your affiliations and networks, tells us where you're from and perhaps something about your family. And it's written in a straightforward way, sometimes with a dash of humor. So here's what a bad bio does. It's more than 250 words, does not include your main vocational role. It includes more than one sentence about what you're passionate about, does not include any references to your previous accomplishments, and does not evidence any hustle. What I mean by that is your bio should tell the world that you are a go-getter, that you have done some stuff. That's what I mean by hustle. Okay, I'm going to check the chat box just to see if there are any questions at the moment, any technical issues before we continue on. Folks sharing what they need a bio for, that's great. I don't think I do know Linda Bees, if that's the way that's pronounced, Shauna. So, okay, looks like everything is rolling here pretty well. So I'm going to keep on going. Okay, now here are some psychological benefits to a great bio. These are actually more important than you might realize. When you craft a good bio, you are assuring yourself that you have the necessary credibility. So chances are you do have the necessary credibility. We're going to talk about different forms of credibility here in a second. But this is a great sort of side benefit that when you write your bio, you're assuring yourself you have the credibility that's needed for whatever it is you're pursuing. And also, crafting a bio helps you learn how to talk about yourself. So if you find yourself in a conversation with a potential client or customer, you have some practice with how to talk about yourself. I am editorial director for a major book publisher, and my passion is to help creative people do their best work. That kind of language is really helpful in those situations. So these are just kind of side psychological benefits that I wanted to be sure to underscore. But why is credibility important? Well, credibility is really your calling card. If you're credible, you have authority on a topic. If you're credible, you can speak with confidence. And if you're credible, people should listen to you. So credibility really is important, but credibility can be taken too far. Sometimes people assume that if they don't have a degree or a certification or some kind of training, they're not credible. And sometimes this is true. I mean, please don't try to fake being a surgeon. But often it's not true. And here's what I'm getting at. There are at least 3 types of credibility. There's formal credibility, experiential credibility, and social credibility, or sometimes it's called social proof. Formal credibility is, like having a degree. If you went to med school or to law school, or you have a master's degree in some particular field, that's what we mean by formal credibility. Maybe you have a certification that you have earned by, putting in a certain number of hours doing something. Experiential credibility is when you have a story that you can point to, an experience that you have gone through, or many experiences that you've gone through. Oftentimes, health coaches, for example, can point to experience they've had with being unhealthy, and then they got healthy. And so they have experiential credibility. Or social credibility. If you can point to people who are listening to you on your blog, or have signed into your, have liked your Facebook account or page, these are different forms of social credibility. And all 3 are important. So right now I'm going to try to do a poll where I ask you what kind of credibility you have. Formal credibility, social credibility, or experiential credibility. Hopefully that's showing up on your screen, and I will report to you what kind of credibility most of you have. Whether formal, social, or experiential. So we'll tune back into that poll here in a minute. It does look like it's loaded up because I'm already getting responses. So we're just about to begin crafting our bio. So if you don't already have a piece of paper and a pen, you might want to grab those, or if you can switch back and forth between this screen and your word processing screen, go ahead and get that ready because we're about to start. And like I said, if you include something in the chat box that you don't include otherwise, you're going to be able to go back to the replay and catch anything that you missed. But obviously, there's a benefit to capturing it either on a piece of paper or in a word processing document so that you have it once this webinar is complete. So go ahead and get that ready. And as we do that, I want to encourage you to think about who your audience is. Think about the reason that you are crafting your bio. Think about, if you're a writer seeking publication, then probably a publisher is your audience. If you're a writer who is crafting a bio for your book cover, then your potential readers are your audience, and you may want to craft 2 different bios for either of those situations. I would encourage you to just focus on one for this webinar, and then you can go back and do this process again for the other audience. If you're a speaker seeking speaking gigs, then your audience is likely an event organizer, right? So think about who your audience is and what is most important to them. For example, what's most important to a publisher if they are considering publishing you? What do you think is most important to them? As a representative of a publisher, I can tell you that what's important to me is somebody who can help me get that book out to as many people as possible. What's important to me as a publisher is, can this person write? Do they have experience writing? So those are some things that are important to me, but you can probably hazard your own hunches about what's important to your audience. This next one is really, really important, folks. Reject paralysis by analysis. Don't get carried away. The important thing is to start writing your bio. You can always tweak it later. Nobody's judging you. So reject paralysis by analysis. One of my favorite authors, Anne Lamott, says, perfectionism is the enemy of the people. And I think that is terrific. So remember, you can always change this later, okay? So with those things in mind, let me jump back to the poll and report to you what people said about the types of credibility that they have. 71% of you say you have experiential credibility. 25% of you say I have formal credibility, and 4% of you say you have social credibility. So 71% point to experiential credibility, 25% formal, and 4% social. And I just want to encourage you, experiential credibility is real credibility. You don't have to apologize for that. It's often the best kind of credibility. When you walk a path, you can show other people how to do the same. So if you have experiential credibility, you're not alone. That's the same kind of credibility that most of your peers have here in this webinar. And I suspect that's true for most audiences. Okay, folks, here we go. Step 1 is the first sentence. Often a great way to start is with your main vocational role, or you can list roles. And I want to give you some examples. These are folks I've worked with. Mike Howerton is currently lead pastor of a dynamic and socially active church on the east side of Seattle called Overlake, where he has served for 9 years. His main vocational role talks a little bit about his experiential credibility there. Michelle DeRusha writes a monthly column on religion and spirituality for the Lincoln Journal-Star and has published a number of articles and personal essays in both print and online media. She's giving us her role, her main vocational role, and she's sharing about her experience, her expertise as a writer. Dana Brown Ritter is a television news executive producer who balances the busy world of journalism with caregiving for her husband, Michael, a quadriplegic. And you'll see why that's important here in a minute. You want to try to highlight roles that have something to do with the reason you're writing your bio. And if your main vocational role has is not related to the reason for which you're writing your bio, then my advice is to lead with a role that does have something to do with the reason you're writing your bio, and then you're going to drop in your main vocational role later in the bio. So with those examples in mind, it's your turn. Write your first sentence and then share it. Go ahead, share this rough draft of your first sentence in the chat box. You can do it. No one's judging you. Drop it in. So I'm going to give you guys some time to write that first sentence. And go ahead and drop it in the chat box when you have it. Lacey asks a question, is it negative if you don't have any affiliations? Well, Lacey, I would want to argue with you a little bit that you don't have any affiliations. I'm just guessing that you might. But if you don't have any, obviously you can't make them up. So don't worry too much about that. Here's our first sentence from Liza. Health coach, home cooking instructor, and kitchen organizer, household manager of a family of 4. Liza brings her passion, knowledge, and experience to the table to help clients reach their goals and achieve optimal health. As part of her health coaching program, clients master Flip Your Kitchen. Okay, so Liza's included more than just one sentence, and that's okay. But don't be intimidated by that. All I'm looking for at this point is your first sentence. Liza, great job. Liza might want to say just Liza, and then your last name is a health coach, home cooking instructor, and kitchen organizer, or health coach, home cooking instructor, kitchen organizer, and household manager of a family of 4, which is a little bit of humor there, which is terrific. And that would be great as a first sentence. And we'll get to the rest of your bio in a bit, Liza. Definitely capture that so that you can repost some of that here in a bit. Jeff is a college professor who teaches online and in traditional on-campus settings. Terrific. It's wonderful. Summer Joy Gross is an Anglican priest with the Anglican Church of North America, a spiritual director of small groups and individuals. That's terrific. You may want to massage that a little bit. You could break that into 2 sentences, that you're an Anglican priest with the Anglican Church of North America. Or you can just say, and a spiritual director of small groups and individuals. And you might want to start with individuals first. There's a spiritual director for individuals and small groups. Something about that just flows better for me. Shauna says, S.R. Atterbury is an urban fantasy author who loves to combine her 3 great loves in her books, the church, the supernatural, and Chicago. I love it, Shauna. That's terrific. Anita, I always have trouble pronouncing your last name. Is it Oyeda or Oyeda? Teaches at a school for Native Americans and writes about her experiences as a caregiver for her husband during his cancer journey. Her daughters struggle with mental illness and the ways she learns from her students. That's great. That's a little long for your first sentence, and I would probably focus in on one of those for the first sentence, either the cancer journey or daughter struggle, depending on the reason for which you're writing your bio. But the first part of that is terrific. Lacey is a holistic health coach who works with people who are newly, and the chats are coming in so fast I can't keep up, are newly diagnosed with food allergies and are trying to figure out how to cope with multiple life changes. That's awesome. Really good. Ojeda. Good. Thanks, Anita. I'm going to have to skip some of these to keep us moving here, but Katie is a certified Christian life coach working with family caregivers and has many years of experience in multiple areas related to caregiving. Awesome, Katie. You see, these are great. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be paralysis by analysis. You can just drop it in and keep on moving. Sin is a sculpture using her artwork to bring a visual to her stories. Love it. And you may want to refine that a little bit and say using her artwork to bring visuals to her stories, to bring, see, I'm not coming up with anything else, since that may be your best bet, to bring, visual representations to her stories, visual artifacts. That sounds a little highfalutin. You could say to flesh out her stories with visuals or with visual representations. Might want to play with that a little bit, but that's a great first stab. Paula Rollins is a holistic health coach who coaches individuals nationwide to a full and healthy life and runs hands-on workshops on fermented foods and gut health. Love it, Paula. Well done. Ben's a British life coach currently living in Pretoria, South Africa. Awesome. Great first sentences. So hopefully you've had a chance to get down a first draft, and these are all great that I've seen here. Really well done. And like I said, you can always go back and tweak these later, but these are good first stabs. Okay, so let's go to the next step. Oh yeah, I addressed this earlier, but just to say it again, frequently asked question, what if my main vocational role has nothing to do with the reason I'm writing a bio? My answer is to lead with roles that are related to the reason you're writing your bio, but consider including your main vocational role later in your bio. Why am I making a big deal out of this? Well, it's because of experience, back to experiential credibility. I have read a lot of bios where it just feels like the person is hiding their main vocational role. Don't do that. Do lead with roles that are specifically related to the reason you're writing your bio, but don't hide your main vocational role. If you are a household manager, as someone said in their bio, say that. If you're a stay-at-home mom, say that. Don't be ashamed of that. You know, if you are legitimately a coach and a mom, you know, it's up to you whether you want to say it. I'm just saying if like you are a teacher, but you are doing something, you know, quite different on the side, don't be afraid to share that you're a teacher. And a little side note, don't be ashamed of your main vocational role. It may have more to do with your reason for writing a bio than you think. I've just seen that over and over again, where whatever a person's main vocational role is, it does play into the reason that they're writing your bio. So don't be ashamed of that. Okay. Now, step 2, flesh it out with some accomplishments. So I'm going to skip the first sentence of these bios and go to the second sentence, and sometimes it's more than one sentence. So in Mike Howerton's case, he's the author of 3 books, including the award-winning Glorious Mess and The Ride of Your Life. So Mike, this bio is really the one he's using to seek publication, and he's sharing that he's an author, which of course is important if you're seeking publication. This bio also probably could work for you know, the cover of his book, because both of these sentences would be important to potential readers. So sometimes there can be overlap between you know, different bios if you're using them for different purposes. Michelle DeRusha, she writes, let me find the second sentence. Michelle has worked as an editor and writer for more than 15 years, including at Art and Antiques Magazine and Profit Magazine in New York City. Currently, Michelle is employed part-time at Nebraska Public Television and Radio, where she writes and edits the monthly magazine as well as other publications, the occasional speech and script. So she's highlighting her accomplishments. And she's also sharing, she's kind of giving you a broader sense of her vocation. Dana Brown Ritter, she writes, she has worked for NBC and ABC affiliated stations in Virginia and Pennsylvania. She's covered the White House for CBN News' Washington, D.C. bureau. She serves an actively engaged community via her popular blog, Love Like This Life, sharing the ups and downs of faith, marriage, and disability. So there, Dana is sharing a little bit about her platform by talking about her blog. And that's always a good idea. So you want to flesh out your bio with some of your accomplishments. So go ahead and do that. May take a sentence, may take a couple sentences, but go ahead and write out how you would flesh out your bio with some accomplishments. and then share your rough draft of your accomplishments in the chat box. You can do it. Again, no one's judging you. Drop it in. While I'm waiting for those to come in, I'll go ahead and share some more of these first sentences. Ben says that the slides are out of focus on my screen. Not sure if anyone else is experiencing the same. I'm not sure either. So maybe other folks can let Ben know whether it's a little out of focus or not. Sometimes it takes a little while for the internet squirrels to catch up, and it'll resolve itself. I'm watching it on my screen, and it looks pretty good here. So it might just be my my webinar software that is making it a little blurry. Lori is a freelance writer and editor and homeschooling mom of 2 who has been married to her college sweetheart for 18 years. That's great. So it sounds like everybody's having some fuzziness issues. So do the best you can, and keep the focus on writing your bio. I'm giving you enough information via audio to get traction. So hopefully we'll be all right. Elise is a certified life coach who has a passion for helping you go from where you are to where you want to be, so you can live your most satisfying, fulfilling life. That's terrific, Elise. You're talking about your main role there. You're also sharing what you're passionate about. And I'm going to get to passion here in a bit. Sometimes it works to include it in the first sentence like that. Sometimes it's better to start with your accomplishments and get to your passion later, because you want to establish some credibility before you share your passion oftentimes. Yep, sorry folks about these technical glitches. I know that the flashing is distracting. I've tried to figure that out, and I'm still trying to figure it out. But don't let that derail you from writing your bio. It's just something to deal with. We're going to get through this together. Kitty has worked as a social worker in hospital settings with the developmentally disabled, and as the director of social services in long-term care settings. She has also taught for 9 years in Christian schools. That's great. So you're pointing to your experience. You've shared your main vocational role. And you're sharing your experience as a teacher. You might share, Katie, how long you've done that work as a social worker. That would add some experiential credibility to your bio. Liza received her health coach training from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition and an AAS in Culinary Arts from the Cooking and Hospitality Institute of Chicago. That's great. So this is on to your accomplishments. That's great. In the years BC, before children, she was the owner and executive chef of a catering and private chef company. I'm assuming is where you were going with that. That's great. So you have given your, I mean, this is some formal credibility, but it's also some experiential credibility too. Shauna, she has written her first 2 novels, which she plans on self-publishing in 2016. She's currently working on a new series, The Sentinels of Chicago, which follows a group of church employees who literally keep hell and its monsters out of our world. That's great. You're sharing that you've written 2 novels, you have another one coming. And I think that works really nicely. Yvonne writes cozy mysteries and homeschools her son. A former newspaper correspondent, high school English teacher, and librarian, she's always looking for adventure. That's good. Without knowing the reason for which you're writing your bio, you're covering a lot of ground there, and you may want to tailor your credibility to the specific reason for which you're writing your bio. I'm assuming that it's maybe that you're a novelist and you're seeking publication, and so I think that works pretty well for that purpose. Actually, you're sharing that you also have experience as a newspaper writer and a high school English teacher and librarian. So I think that works quite well, Yvonne. Meredith is the author of a book called, and then she gives the title. She also co-wrote a behavior modification curriculum for the Cleveland Clinic and Curves International. Before that, Meredith survived a career in national politics. Love the humor there, from the 2000 campaign to the White House. That's great. So you're sharing that that you're the author of a book, which is great, a great piece of credibility, that you co-wrote a curriculum, and that you have a background in politics. That's awesome. Lacey's a mom and grandmother to a family who has been dealing with multiple food allergies for 6 years. Experiential credibility. She's aware of the day-to-day challenges that so many face and who so often feel alone and lost. She's developed numerous methods for how to make life and dietary adjustments for individuals. And you might say individuals and families or something there. That's great. Somebody mentioned, Liza mentions that maybe you have a character limit. I'm not sure, maybe you do. Lori, she and her husband, Stephen, who have 11 years of church ministry experience, have co-written a book about the ups and downs of their relationship. Great. So you're talking about your experiential credibility, the fact that you have a publishing credit to your name, and those are all great forms of sharing your accomplishments, sharing your credibility. All of these are terrific. Give you a few more minutes to flesh out your bio with some accomplishments. Yvonne has published short stories in the Virginia is for Mysteries anthologies. That's great. You could even add something like well-reviewed short stories if they have been well-reviewed. Paula has supported personal improvement for over 30 years as a professional ski instructor and coach, 4-H youth leadership volunteer, and spiritual programming coordinator. She holds professional certification from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition and from the Professional Ski Instructors. That's great. You're pointing to your experience, and you're also pointing to your professional certification. So you have both experience and experiential and formal credibility there. And that is awesome. If you are pitching yourself as a health coach, you might also mention information that is specifically related to that health coaching, Paula. Claudia is an entrepreneur who, after 20 years of coaching and sales and marketing from the Orange County Register and Showtime, while putting herself in college, gaining a creative writing degree, has now opened 2 businesses of owning a vacation rental while helping others in the business with their online. And then I think you got cut off, Claudia. That's great. It's a kind of a run-on sentence there, so you may want to break that up. But that's a great first stab, and lots of great language in there to craft into your bio. Entrepreneur who, after 20 years of working in sales and marketing, you could just say as an entrepreneur who has 20 years of experience in sales and marketing, and then period, now she is, and go on with the new direction. Elaine Cross is a high school teacher who has used her life experiences to write and speak, focusing on fostering unity and growth in the Christian church. That's great. She has self-published her first book, Wounded Church, and established a self-named website where she shares a blog and inspirational images. And it goes on from there. But that's great. You don't necessarily have to share that your book was self-published unless you are seeking publication with a publisher. In fact, even if you are seeking publication with a publisher, you can share later on that your book is self-published. It doesn't help you in your bio if you're seeking publication to say your book is self-published, but to say you have a book called Wounded Church, that is helpful. And instead of saying your website is self-named, you might just put in parentheses what the URL is. So then it's clear that it's self-named, and people can actually go there if they choose to do so. But that's great. Good first stab. Sonia has been crocheting, knitting, writing, sewing, and painting for almost half a century. Awesome. Her original crochet designs have won Reserve Grand Champion, and blue ribbons in the County 4-H Fair. That's terrific. Well done. Sin leads hands-on retreats where attendees can create their own sculptures to remind them of God's truths and how they apply to their own lives. Good job, Sin. I'm just rereading it here. Yeah, that's really good. You're sharing that you actually do this. You have hands-on experience of leading people to do their own sculpting work, and you share what the reason is for those sculptures. I think that's really good. Okay, let's keep on moving, folks. These are all really good. You guys are almost there, so hang in there, because step 3 is consider adding one sentence about your passion. So Dana Brown Ritter says her passion is helping women to embrace a life of vulnerability in order to experience the freedom Jesus offers. Obviously a Christian author, and I work at a Christian book publisher, but your passion obviously can go in a whole variety of different directions. Mine, if I was writing my bio, I would probably say his passion is to help creative people do their best work, or his passion is to help writers to find their voice and do their art. So include one sentence about your passion. Go ahead and work on that. I'll give you a few minutes. And then we're going to share this. Do you have a sentence about your passion? Go ahead and drop this rough draft of your passion sentence in the chat box. You can do it. No one's judging you, I promise. Drop it in, and I will begin looking for those. If you're a writer seeking publication, you may want to talk about being passionate, something about being passionate to serve your readers, and you could flesh that out a little bit. If you're a speaker seeking publication, speaker seeking speaking gigs, you may want to say what you're passionate about when it comes to serving audiences. Anita has a passion for helping caregivers understand that they need time to grieve and process their experiences, and that they are not alone. That's great. Mary's passion is helping moms find meaning in the mundane. Love it. These are great. If you are a coach seeking clients, your passion statement is a great opportunity to share what drives your coaching. And obviously that will be important to your clients. Her passion is to share her nutritional and spiritual journey back to health. That's great. Darius, if I'm pronouncing that right. You may want to focus in on your audience and how it is that you want to serve your audience. And obviously sharing your nutritional spiritual journey back to health is a benefit to your audience, but you could turn the corner there and say, I want to help people. By sharing my own journey back to health, I want to help others on their health journey, or something like that. Her passion is providing help and hope to family caregivers who frequently feel overwhelmed and alone. That's awesome. My passion is to help people live as full and healthy a life as possible, regardless of the obstacles they face. That's great, Paula. Love it. full and healthy a life as possible. You may work with that phrase a little bit. See if there's an even more hopeful way of putting it, maybe. Passion is to help people live full and healthy lives. You know, the word vibrant could be useful, fulfilling, satisfying. You may even talk about helping people achieve the dreams they set for themselves. You can go a lot of different directions, but that's a great first stab. Lacey's passion is to demonstrate that eating can still be full flavored. Hold on one second. Let me get back down to her sentence. Delicious and crowd-pleasing, knowing how to make great ingredient substitutes. Oh, that's terrific. Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm sure that whatever came before that is, you know, makes it clear that they're doing that. They're substituting ingredients. Thanks, because a passion to think up clues in murder seems a bit awkward. Fair enough, Yvonne. Elise, love speaking with women and couples on marriage, parenting, and relationships. And then it goes on to share some accomplishments. But that passion statement is really good, Elise. Speaking with women and couples on marriage, parenting, and relationships. You may even flesh out a little more. What is it that you help them do when you speak to them? You're helping them improve their marriage, parenting, and relationships. Are you helping them have healthy marriages and family relationships? You might want to just say a little bit more there. Elaine has a passion to encourage people to move beyond the struggles of today and pain of the past and step into a fuller Christian experience. Very well written, Elaine. I get a clear sense of what your passion is, and that's nicely done. Since passion is to encourage and nurture the discouraged. Very simple and succinct, which is great. If you can think of another phrase that talks about kind of the journey that you help to take them on when you're encouraging them, encourage and nurture the discouraged so that they can, that might be useful. But you can easily go on too long about your passion. And if you go too long on your passion, it starts to feel like you are overselling yourself. And so when I encourage you to expand it just a little bit, I mean just a little bit. Don't go on too long. Lori's passion is to help couples experience health, wholeness, and joy in their relationships. Awesome. Summer's passionate about inviting the thirsty to take long drinks of rest in God. So you're using a metaphor there, and sometimes metaphors are helpful and sometimes they're not. I would start with something that's a little more straightforward, passionate about helping people who need rest find it, you know, something like that. Don't get too clever in your bio with those metaphors because sometimes they can complicate things unnecessarily. If you were going to do that, you could say thirsty for rest, take long drinks of Sabbath and God, something like that. But honestly, I think you're better off with a straightforward way of structuring that, Summer. Helena, it looks like you're having some issues. Because the webinar is underway. I'll try to help Elena out with a direct message to her. So give me just a second to do that while you guys are writing your passion sentences. I'm going to send Helena the link to the webinar just in case she can still get in. All right. Reading through here. These are great passion sentences. Elise says, passion, yes. I guess my passion is my first sentence. I've recently become a life coach, but I've been working as an editor, writer, speaker, and writing coach for many years. Very challenging to harness all I do into one powerful bio. I know we can do several, still a big challenge. Well, there's no way to tackle that challenge except by trying. So I'm confident you can do it, Elise. And you know, once you have it down, then it's a lot easier to tweak it for different settings and to make it as strong as possible. I do think a great way of going though is by starting with your role, fleshing it out with accomplishments, and then one sentence on your passion. And we're going to get to the last part here in just a minute. My passion is to write about strong women characters, Shauna says, who change their world and make it a better place. Love it. These are all terrific. And Mary, thanks for trying to help Helena out. I just sent her the link to the webinar, so hopefully she'll be able to join us shortly. Is it okay to use an acronym in our bio? Does that unnecessarily raise questions, or is it good because it raises questions? I used one below in mine. Let me try to find yours, Liza, so I know what you're talking about. Looking for it. Don't see it yet, Liza. Here we go. Liza lives with her husband and 2 children in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and is passionate about health and happiness, education and exercise, soul food, and social justice. I think that I think it's fine to include it, but I would put in parentheses what it means. You don't. The bio. There are places where you may want to raise questions, but your bio is not one of them. What your bio needs to do is assure people that you're credible and you know, give them a reason to trust you and to want to work with you. So raising questions isn't really a good thing for your bio to do. Second try, my passion is to help people live a vibrant, energetic, and healthy life and reach boldly for their life dreams by exploring and addressing physical, emotional, and psychological obstacles in their way. Yeah, exploring or overcoming, by overcoming those obstacles. But I do think that's an improvement, Paula. Terrific. Okay, so we're going to keep on moving. Step 4 is to finish it off with a bit about your family and location. Maybe add a dash of humor. And now we get to those previous examples. This one's Howerton's, Mike Howerton's. He's the grateful husband of Jody and the incredulous dad of Alexander, Caleb, and Doozy. He's an author, a popular conference speaker, a lover of vintage motorcycles on the open road, and a frustrated surfer in exile. Howerton is writing that from Seattle, and he before that he was in Southern California. So that's what he's getting at there. So he's talking about his family, and he already mentioned where he's from earlier in his bio. And he is sharing a little bit about what his interests are, vintage motorcycles, and he's giving you a little dash of humor with that frustrated surfer in exile line. She's the mother of 2 young children and is an active member in her church, Southwood Lutheran, a large 3,000 member congregation in Lincoln, Nebraska. So no humor there, but that's all right. And sometimes it would be inappropriate to include humor if you are writing a pretty serious book and you're trying to get it published. You know, including a dash of humor may not be appropriate. But note that Michelle DeRusha in that sentence there is referencing again a little bit about her platform by talking about her large church. That large church may be full of potential readers for her book. Dana and Michael Ritter live in Virginia Beach, Virginia, with their dog Brokaw, the social media sensation. So a little bit of humor there. That works really nicely. So, share. Go ahead and drop this info about your location and family in the chat box. You can do it. Has anyone judged you up to this point? No. So, no one's going to judge you, I promise. Drop it in. Give it a shot. If nothing humorous comes to mind, Don't worry about it. Just drop in where you're from, something about your family, and that'll work just fine. My passion is to show through characterization that good will triumph over evil. I may not put that in the bio, but that's what it's all about. Yep, that makes sense. If you're writing a novel, you could say that your passion is to, entertain readers while at the same time provide a hopeful message about life or something like that. Or you could just say what you just said, the characterization that, through characterization that good will triumph over evil. Sean is married and lives in Chicago. In her free time, she likes to take long walks on Lake Michigan and through downtown Chicago, cook for friends, crochet, knit, and read. That's great. She tells us a little about who you are and that you're married. That's great. Katie could easily count herself as her own client as her parents reside with her in their Cape Coral home. They love God, nature, and their extensive family. That's great. So as I recall, you're writing about caregiving and so sharing that your parents reside with you kind of, tells us that you are a caregiver, if I'm not mistaken there, Katie. So great job. And extensive family, a little bit of humor there. That's great. So go ahead and share something about where you live, your family, a dash of humor if it comes to you. Gail, turns out I have to work on a project during the entire webinar. I'm listening. I'll rewatch when I can work on my bio later. Thanks so much, Chad. You're welcome, Gail. And you can still send me questions even while you're watching the replay, and I'll get those by email and respond. So that's just fine. Yvonne lives in Chesapeake with her family and a mysterious cat whom they all serve. That's interesting. I like that. All right. Yes, Katie, I got it right. Good. Elaine, her family is often referred to as the Brady Bunch with 7 children, a dog, a cat in Northeast Ohio. That's great. You could even say my Brady Bunch of a family, including 7 children, dog, cat, something like that. Anita, when she's not hunting and photographing rare birds in odd places, you can find her hanging out with her husband, camping with her kids, or mountain biking with her students. Oh, I love that. Just gives a full ordered picture of who you are, Anita. And that's helpful. For example, when I'm trying to decide who to publish, I want to know something about that person and if it would be a fun person to work with. So I can say you sound like somebody who would be fun to work with. So well done. Meredith's a Midwestern girl, East Coast transplant, living the good life in South Bend, Indiana, by her husband's side as she learns every day how to be a stepmom to 3 amazing kids. That's great. Yeah. So obviously you're a mom and a faithful wife you're pointing out, and that's terrific. You could even share a little bit about some of the things that you like to do, just to kind of give us a little bigger picture of who you are, Meredith. Shauna can relate to you, Yvonne. That's great. Great stuff. Yeah. This question comes up a lot. Do I write in the first or the third person? That depends on the setting. If it's for your blog, I think first person can work fine. If it's for a publisher or a little more formal setting, then I would go with the third person. Certainly for the back of your book, you'd want it to be in the third person. Just depends on how formal the setting is that your bio, that your bio is presented. So definitely you want to maintain the same person though. If you start in the first person, you want to stay in the first person all the way. Same thing if you're doing it in the third person. So Lacey cooks and preps meals for herself and her family in the beautiful mountains of North Carolina. When not cooking, she is tending her oversized garden where she grows copious amounts of herbs and veggies that she dehydrates, freezes, and pickles. She loves entertaining and it's thrilled. Yeah, Lacey, don't get too carried away. I like it, but don't get too carried away with that. Because again, you don't want to undermine your credibility by going on and on about your personal life. If it's relevant to the reason you're writing your bio, go ahead, but just be careful not to get too carried away. Paula, known as the family granola girl, Paula is humored by her patient and tolerant husband, Peter, and children, budding chefs Annika, Pagela, and Tyan. They enjoy an active hiking, camping, and skiing lifestyle, living La Vida healthy on the desert and the Colorado Western Slope. Awesome. That's terrific. Little humor in there. And you're giving us a broad picture of who you are and what you're about. Sin lives too far from the ocean. Oh, with hubby Jack and a leaky dog named Robbie. Oh, that's terrific. I love that. It's very funny and gives us a sense of who you are, Sin. Meredith K, got it. Meredith also loves to run and bike, get inspired in northern Michigan, and visit national parks with her husband. Great. You're welcome, Lacey. These are awesome. You've given me a clear picture of who you guys are, where you live, something about your family, a bit of humor, and you really have nailed it. So based on these bios, I'd love to work with any one of you. And so that is awesome. You're doing a great job. I'm going to give you a couple more minutes just to wrap this up. And then we'll close out the webinar with a few things. I want to do the Facebook thing and give you a chance to win a free coaching session with me, and also just to share your bio with everybody else who was on the webinar. Later, you'll be able to go back to the comments and read the bios that your fellow webinar participants wrote. And that's always helpful when you're writing your own bios, to look at other people's bios. You can often get ideas that way. So take another minute or two to finish up your bios. We're coming to the end. These are bios that you'll be able to use right away, or maybe you want to tweak them just a little bit and then start to use them right away. And I'm going to share some different ways that you can use your bio. Sure, you can put me down as affiliation. You can say you went through Chad Allen's webinar on writing a bio. Yes, you have my permission to do that, Sid. Elaine, typically the word count is 250 words or less. Ben, I'm from London, UK, and enjoy connecting with people in an authentic, heart-to-heart way, preferably in nature or at an organic food market or cafe anywhere in the world. I love it, Ben. It really gives us a sense of who you are. When she's not homeschooling her son or serving the cat, she can be found writing mysteries and drinking coffee at a local coffee shop. That's great. You might even share what coffee shop that is and where it is, just for a little more detail. As long as you don't think that would invite people stalking you or anything. Sometimes that's the danger. But if you were to say, like, my coffee shop is Common Ground in the Fulton Heights neighborhood of Grand Rapids, that just kind of gives it a little more detail. You're welcome, Sin. Lori, a Cincinnati transplant, she has finally found herself at 40. Which means long walks win over running marathons. Amen. And giving up coffee is no longer an option. Oh, that's terrific. I think we could be friends. That's good. All right, so let's move along here. Woohoo! You have written your bio. Congratulations. Lean back in your chair. Move your head around a little bit, stretch your shoulders. You've done some solid work here. It's going to be useful to you. And I just want to take a moment to pause and say congratulations, you've done it. Despite technical glitches and other obstacles in your way, you have prevailed with at least a good solid draft of your bio. Even if you want to go back and tweak it a little bit, you have something to work with. So congratulations. Now, here are some places to use your bio. Your blog's about page, your Facebook or Twitter profile, your speaking page, the ends of articles you write, your book proposal, and even the bottom of certain emails, especially if you're pitching yourself to somebody, you may want to include your bio in an email to someone that you're contacting. So just some different places that you can use your bio. If you think of others that I'm missing and you want to share those in the chat box, feel free to do that. But sometimes people think they have one specific place where they need a bio and they forget that they can actually get multiple uses out of the same bio. So don't neglect all the different places that you can use your bio. Might as well get as much use out of it as you can. So let's do the Facebook thing. I'm going to go to my Facebook page, which you can find at facebook.com/Chad R. Allen. And I'm going to create a new post there. I have not done so yet, but I'm about to. And I'm going to say, webinar participants, post your bios here. Post your bios here. Publish that. And what I will do is later today or tomorrow, I will randomly select one person to do a 30-minute coaching call with me. And you can use that 30 minutes however you want. I'm very happy to serve in whatever way I possibly can. If you want to give me some things to think about before we talk so that I can be that much better prepared to serve you, that'd be great. But that post is up. Let me go ahead and put a link to my Facebook page in the chat box. There it is. And hopefully you can just click that and post your bio right in the comment section of that post. And like I said, later today or tomorrow, I will randomly select one person to do a 30-minute coaching call with me. I've done these before, and they've been just a lot of fun and even helpful to the people I get to speak with. I really feel like I've actually help people take the next steps on the journey, on the creative journey, whether that's your creative journey as a blogger or as a speaker or as a coach. So I'm excited to do that with you. And while you do that, I would love to take some questions. What questions do you have about your bio? What questions do you have about publishing? What questions do you have about book proposals? Go ahead and enter your questions in the chat box. Bio, publishing, book proposals, or anything else that comes to mind. I'd love to spend some time with Q&A here and give you some time to ask questions. So I think what I'll do is take this off of screen share so you can actually see my face. Let me do that. Take just a second. Here we go. Oh, that window's pretty bright behind me, isn't it? Let me turn this. There we go. All right, so this is me. This is what I look like. And I really am here. I really am live. I'm here actually at a co-working space in Grand Rapids called The Factory. If you're ever in Grand Rapids, drop in, ask for Rob, and he will give you a tour of the place. Co-working is a great thing to explore. Let's see. So go ahead and ask any questions you have, and I'll do my best to answer you. Oh yeah, I have a sticky post on my Facebook page, so you may have to scroll down to find it. Actually, let me try to make that unsticky. Hopefully this will make it easier for everybody to find. Oh yeah, you're finding it. Already see what three bios there, so you guys are finding it. That's terrific. And as people post their bios there, I would love to take any questions you have. And looks like I have two rods coming out of my head. I don't know what to do about that. See, because it's either this where you have a lot of glare, or the two rod thing. So maybe if I don't know. What if I did? This is kind of funny. I don't know. You'll have to deal with the two rods sticking out of my head. I guess I could kind of lean this way a little bit. All right. I am looking for questions. Let's see here. Is it ever appropriate to have a more extensive bio, like 300 to 500 words, or is that always less effective? You know, I think if you are, you know, like in a book proposal, sometimes people will include longer bios because they're using their bio to provide more information about their platform. And but what I would say is often it's better to make your bio shorter, include the platform information, extensive platform information elsewhere in the proposal. So I can imagine cases where it might be okay to include a longer bio, but depending on, well, for example, like on my about page on my blog, that bio is probably a little longer than 250 words. And so certainly there are cases where a little longer bio is okay. But especially when you are pitching yourself like to publishers or to clients or so on, you may want to do you know, a short version of your bio and then a longer version of your bio, or you may want to do enough in the first paragraph that people get the gist, and then you can go into a little more depth later in the bio. All right, let's see here. I want to make sure I address as many questions as I can. Any tips on changing the world through fiction? I'm not sure I can help there. Although I would point to two books, Stephen King's On Writing and Solstein's Stein on Writing, both great books on writing fiction. I've seen rather lengthy bios on coaches' about pages. Is that a wise choice versus adding more information on other places on the website, such as their blogs? Thank you. Again, I would say that that's up to you. I would make sure that the first paragraph of your bio includes all the main information. And then if you want to go on a little longer, you certainly can do that. Okay, now I'm going to scroll up a little bit. I've finally started to the truth that platform building is everything. Can you offer your best resources to help with platform building? Sure, Lori. First of all, I would say that platform is not everything. That there are cases where, for example, we will publish books from writers who don't have much of a platform. But certainly platform is the main reason we decline proposals. In terms of resources, I would point to Platform, How to Get Noticed in a Noisy World by Michael Hyatt. That's a book. And he also has a membership site called Platform University, which I'm in and find really helpful. So those are some great resources. You can also search platform on my blog. I've done some posts on that. In fact, recently I did one on how to get published when you don't have a platform. So, so those are some useful resources. So I wrote this book, Elaine writes, and have my website. Should I add that I am a licensed high school teacher in my bio? It adds a little credibility as a teacher or not? I think it's a great idea, even if it doesn't add credibility. I think it's great just to share a little bit more about you and let us know what you do when you're not writing. I think that's just fine. And eliminates the question, what's her day job? It just eliminates that. If we don't have a huge email list, Anita asks, for our blog, but we do have high engagement on blog posts, will publishers still look at you? Absolutely. We look at the full picture, and you can say that you serve an actively engaged community via your blog. But I would encourage you, if you don't already have a way for people to sign up and subscribe for your blog posts, to go ahead and do that. Do a Google search on how to get more email subscribers. There's all kinds of resources, because the sooner you build your email list, the better. In fact, I'll just say here, this isn't a platform building webinar. It's not a list building webinar, but I will say that probably the most powerful tool that any of us has in the digital space is an email list. Facebook can change their algorithm, 5 minutes from now and really influence how many people see your Facebook posts. But if you have an email list, that is a digital asset that you own, and you can use it however you like. So email. It is important in this space. Do you suggest adding your degrees on there or no? Just noticed you are a fellow domer. Yeah, hey Meredith. I think it's a great idea to include your degrees, Meredith. Is this Meredith Onsa, I wonder? I think you and I were in Trailblazer together with Jonathan Mead. Anyway, yeah, I think it's a great idea to include your degrees, even if they don't have directly to do with the reason you're writing your bio. I'm going to make sure I get everybody's questions. My main vocation is homeschooling, but that doesn't seem a lead in for a book proposal or publisher where writing mysteries is concerned. Should that be first? No, I don't think it should be first, but I definitely think you shouldn't hesitate to include that in your bio somewhere. When you write about your family, you can go ahead and say that you're a homeschooling mom, or you can just say you're a mom of so-and-so children, if you're afraid about any connotations with homeschooling, although you shouldn't be. So yeah, I wouldn't lead with that, because it's not the reason that you're writing your bio, but don't be afraid to include it later in your bio. In fact, I think it could be a really good idea, because again, it just eliminates those questions. People reviewing your bio naturally have this question: what's this person do during the day? And so when you share that you're a homeschooling mom, we know what you do during the day, and it eliminates the question. David Morell's The Successful Novelist is also an excellent book on writing fiction. Great. Thank you, Shauna. I don't teach at the moment. This writing speaking is my day job. Great. You could say you're a full-time speaker and writer. So there's nothing wrong with that. All right. Okay. Different Meredith. All right. Any other questions that you have? I would love to respond to those. We are closing in on the half hour. I was thinking about an hour and a half for this webinar. So any other remaining questions? Questions about your bio or publishing or book proposals? Be really happy to respond to any of those. Do you share what you may have overcome, i.e. loss, grief, addictions, and such? Yes, especially if it's relevant to the reason you're writing your bio. Obviously, you don't want to, there are appropriate and inappropriate levels of disclosure. And You don't want to share something that would paint you in a negative light or something. But there are ways of doing that that really work nicely. You know, if you say that that you have experience with recovery yourself, you know. In fact, I was reading a book not too long ago by Timothy Askew, Askew, Timothy Askew, and the book is, I think it's called Small. I'm going to write this down in the chat box. Small Business as Poetry by Timothy Askew. If I didn't get that title exactly right, it's close. And he does a really nice job of sharing that he has kind of a journey of recovery, but it's in a way that doesn't doesn't make you think less of him, and in fact, it makes you think more of him because you realize he's overcome a lot in his life, and he's writing having overcome those things. So I think that's a great way to do it. Especially if you're writing a book, say, and it's about overcoming things, you know, sharing that you have some experience with overcoming things is experiential credibility. So I think it's absolutely a good thing to include. All right, looks like we're getting to the end of the questions. So I want to thank all of you for coming, and just appreciate you being here, especially given the technical glitches that we had. I'm going to continue trying to figure that out. I'm still a relative newbie at this webinar thing, and so thank you. I really feel strongly that the bios I saw in this webinar are really, really quite good, and you should feel good about using them. Let me check the Facebook page and see how you guys have done in posting your bios there. Yes, it looks like a number of you have posted those, and feel free to do that throughout today. I won't pick somebody until later today or early tomorrow. So feel free to post in your bio anytime. Let's say in the next 4 hours. I won't pick anybody for coaching in the next 4 hours. So I'll give you that space to post your bio there, and we'll look forward to reading those. Anita, you're very welcome. I'm glad that this was helpful to you. I'm glad that you thought it was productive. Gail, you're welcome. And do drop by sometime at chadrallen.com. Would love to hang out with you, to email, to interact with you, and it's just been a lot of fun to do this bio with you. I will let you know that I have a product called Book Proposal Academy. If you are a writer, a nonfiction writer, that is a nonfiction writer who's interested in publication, you may be interested in Book Proposal Academy. I'll be launching that later this year. But there's no pitch for the end of this webinar. I just wanted to help you write your bio. That's it. So I'm glad it was helpful to so many of you, and look forward to seeing your finished bios in that Facebook stream. It'll be fun to read those. So again, congratulations. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.